A warm welcome, my dear students. So nowadays we are confined at our home, but we should remember that learning should not stop. Learning should continue. So for that purpose, now we will be learning a poem in here from your first flight. This from the first chapter, and in the first chapter we have got two poems. The first one is Dust of Snow and the second one is Fire and Ice, both written by Robert Frost. So before we go through the poem, let me just introduce you a little bit of and more about Robert Frost. So Robert Frost was born in 1874 in San Francisco, California. So he was an American poet. He was very much admired for his depiction of the rural life of New England and his command of American colloquial speech. His realistic poem portrays ordinary people in everyday situation. So 2 years after his graduation from Lawrence High School as a class poet, the New York Independent accepted his poem My Butterfly. Actually, none of his poem was published before he was 40 years old. But when it was published, he went on to win 4 Pulitzer Prize and it had made a world record. So he was one of the famous poets during his time. And not only that, he was nominated 31 times for the Nobel Prize in the field of literature. So his famous works include Fire and Ice, as we are going to learn today, Dust of Snow, which has been prescribed in our book, and Rope Not Taken, that we already have learned in class 9, and then Acquaintance with the Night. So many are there, and many more are there. So Fire and Ice is a very important poem, is very much relevant with the present scenario. So here, Fire and Ice will bring out the symbolic of the two different elements. Now, so in here, the writer has brought about the probability of the two different apocalyptic scenarios represented by the elements of the poem's title itself. The speaker believed fire to be more likely the end of the world. And not only that, so it is also directly links with what he has tasted of desire. Now, before we go through this poem, let me just read out the poem line wise. I have written the poem in here also, and you can refer to your books, textbooks, if you have already got it. If you don't, means if you haven't got it, then you can refer to the study materials I have provided you. Now, let me just go through the poem. Fire and Ice. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. Now, this is a 9 line poem, a short poem, but it has got a deeper meaning in here. Now, let me just go through line wise. So, some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. So, what do we see here is a very symbolic element. The first one is fire, and the second one is ice. So, fire represents desire and ice represents hatred. Now, what actually is this fire and ice? So, fire represents desire and ice represents hatred. So, what do you mean by this? So, what is desire? So, desire, it can be the passion, greed, and the lust. Now, what it represents in here, we human beings have undying desire. Our wants, our likes, our desire are unending. So we already know that. But now in this poem, in the first two lines, we can see that some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. Now, who are the one who is saying this? So the poet has used an imagery in here. No, he imagines in here that that means these are the opinions of the different people. These are the opinions of the people. That some are saying that the world will end in fire, and some are saying that the world will end in ice. But the main point here is the end of the world. So the end of the world will be caused either by fire or either by ice. But the main thing is the destruction of the world. So what is this fire and ice? So these are the human emotion. So some critics have even said that this poem Fire and Ice has been inspired from Dante's Inferno, or Frost had a friend. He had a conversation with an astronomer which they talk about the sun exploding or extinguishing. So now these are the two things which have explained that he had given means taken inspiration from these two things, that means Dante's Inferno and one of his friend astronomer had spoke about this. From there this fire and ice had come up. Now we will further go in here. In the third line, what he says in here, from what I have tasted of desire. But now we can see that the poet is very much agreed to the opinion that he also had tasted desire. So that is why in the fourth line he said, I hold with those who favor fire. So now again, he even says in here, he was very much in favor of those who have the favor in here, that who holds with that fire will be the main cause of the destruction of the world. Now, let's see. In the next line, but if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate. But again, he even says that if the world has to end twice, then he even says that ice is also an appropriate reason for the end of the world. Now, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. Now, in this line, what we understand here is, so Frost had pointed out two symbolic things in here. So that is, the first one is fire, another one is ice. Then, so these two symbolic things has been used as the emotion of desire and ice as the emotion of hatred. So he has used the idea of two groups who have their own possible explanation for the end of the world. One is of the opinion that fire alone can destroy each and every possibility of the life on earth, while the other thinks that if ice is a result of extreme low temperature could cover the earth's surface, it would lead to the end of the world. But the components are compared with self-destructing human emotion. So what are the emotions? That is desire and hatred. So the poet is originally of the opinion that he had been very closely associated with the fiery desire. So we can see that how he proves that from what I have tasted of desire. So he even says that he had already tasted of desire. So he is with the opinion that fire could be the reason of the end of the world. Now, does he consider fire as more competent for destruction? Then let's see in here. But then he thinks that icy hatred is just as capable of ruining humans, though slowly and steadily. Therefore, if earth was to end twice, ice would be just as good as fire. So even he says that ice is just as good as fire. So similarly, if fire is pure passion, ice is pure reason. Thus, the poem very artistically and with a philosophical way that we human itself are the one who is going to lead to the destruction of our own humanity. Now what we see in here that the main theme is what? The destruction of the world. So this poem is very much relevant with the present scenario. That means either by the hatred or either by the unending desire of our human emotion that is going to bring the destruction of the world. So it is very much true and it is very much stated in this poem that the world is going to come to an end. But it has not predicted that when it will end and how it will end. So the poem we will further discuss about this. Now let's further discuss about these two symbols of fire and ice. So what does this fire symbolizes? So we can know that at first the poem seems like to be discussing natural disasters as events that might bring about the end of the world. So the fire of blind word could be interpreted as a meteor event. For example, the kind that most likely devastated the dinosaurs also. But now when we go further in here, we can see that fire is actually the desire. So what does this desire stands for? What are the desires? So what does this fire stands for? Actually, so accordingly, fire comes to stand for inflamed passion, greed, lust, which humanity brings about destruction by acting rashly and violently. War. So it could be the prime example. And so the poem is gently suggestive of the kind of the wars that could bring about the end of the world. So now, it is also important to remember the positive association of fire also. That means the warmth and the light. So these symbolic qualities do not feel very present in the poem. So then we can see that. So this means the warmth and the light is not represented in here. Actually, what this desire represents here is the passion, the greed, the lust that we human being have. Because this emotion is going to bring about the destruction of the world. Then another symbol is the ice. So what does this ice stands for? Then, so the world will come to an end. So how is it is about to end? So in here, how the ice is about to bring the end in here. So ice could be interpreted as the ice age or the death of the sun. But from line number 3, what we can see here, when the symbolic association between fire and desire established, it becomes clear that the ice is also not primarily or exclusively literal. Indeed, from line number 5 onwards, the poem makes the connotation of ice more clear. The speaker draws a line between ice and hate. So putting forward the proposition that ice is also great. So what it says in here, ice is also great. That means both this element are very much what can be the cause of the destruction of the world. Then moving further in here, so the main theme of the poem is what? That so both this fire and ice so highlights the human being's talent for self-destruction. Then that means both this fire and ice is a symbol that we human being have in our emotion that both this will be the reason for bringing a destruction in our world. Then again, the speaker used these natural elements as symbols for desire and hatred respectively, arguing that both emotions left unchecked have the capacity to destroy civilization itself. So if it has been left unchecked, then it will become the main reason for the destruction of our society, our world. Then we have come to hear, to know that. So these are the different opinion, the possibility, the probability of the apocalyptic. That means the end of the world. Then now moving further in here, we will go to the literary devices of the poem in here. So in Fire and Ice, we have literary devices in here. First is the rhyming scheme. So the rhyming scheme is the first we will term it as fire, then fire matches with desire, both are A and I doesn't match, that will be B, A, B, A. Then in half, then we have fire again matches with this, then again A, then I matches with this B, then hate doesn't matches with any, then we have C in here, then I again matches with B in here, eyes again, then great in here with C, then eyes with here in B. So what is the actual rhyming scheme? What we got here is A, B, C, B, C, B. So let me just write down in here A, B, A, then A, B, C, then B, C, B. So this is the rhyming scheme of this poem, this 9-line poem. Now, the another literary device is personification. So, what has been personified in here? Both the fire and ice has been personified because these two symbolic elements are the main reason which is going to cause the destruction of the world. So this has the capability of causing the destruction of the world. So this has been personified. Then another literary device is alliteration. So now what actually alliteration is? Alliteration is the repetition of the consonant sound at the start of two or more closely placed words. So let us find out where are the alliteration. So the sound of favor and fire, F in here, another F in here, and word and will. So consonant sound closely placed together, so we have alliteration. So word, will, and favor and fire. So these are the alliteration that has been used in here. Then another literary device is imagery. So now, what is actually imagery? So imagery is used to make readers perceive things involving their five senses. Example, some say the word will end in fire. So some say, so this lines so has been used as an imagery. So imaginative words using our senses. So we keep on imagining that who says it, who are the one who is speaking it. Then another one is the anaphor, the repetition of the word or expression at the start of two or more consecutive lines. So, for example, some say. So, anaphor has also been used in here. What are anaphor? Some say, and in the second line also, the first line and the second line. Some say has been used in here, then in the second line also, some say has been used in here. So, both these lines so consecutively has been used, that means this is anaphor. Then another so we already know about the literary device we have used in here. Then at last we are going to learn another literary device, that is assonance. What actually is assonance? So opposite of the so assonance is here is a repetition of the vowel sound in same lines. The repetition is at different place in different words. For example, what we have got in here, whole with those. So now this is the vowel sound that has been repeated but in different places. So now O in here and for those O in here. So these are the literary devices that has been used in here. So we come to know that in this poem, what the poet wants us to know is that if we are not able to control our emotion, if we means make our emotion rule us, then for sure we human beings are going to extinct like the dinosaurs has extinct. So now at the end in here, what we know here is that we should control the emotion, that we should try to learn to live in peace. Both these elements are really strong. We should be able to control our desire. We should love each other. At the end, what we are going to sum up in here is that at the last in here, if we are going to keep on hating each other, if we are going to make our emotion rule on us, then the end of the day, the doomsday will be really near. So this is about the fire and ice, and I hope you understood the poem thoroughly. Thank you very much.